This video, I want to give you some habits that you can add to your routine to make you a more successful trader or investor. So the first thing you should do before entering any trade idea is check an economic calendar. I like forexfactory.com. If you go to forexfactory.com and select calendar, you'll see major economic reports worldwide. They color code them by impact, so the red ones are high impact. Generally, if I were trading the US markets, I would look for things that affect the US dollar, the British pound, and then maybe the euro. Everything's kind of interconnected. The reason you want to look at things that happen, say, in Britain, is the London stock market actually closes right before the midday of the US market. So things that happen in London can have an impact in the US markets, and you just want to be aware of those kind of things. So you got the Bank of England governor speaking on Monday, the 28th at 9:30. That's right when the U.S. Markets open. So it's probably going to be an exciting time if he's talking about anything economic or says something strange or hawkish. But look out for the high impact items. For me, myself, I don't enter trades about 15 minutes before and 15 minutes after these kind of big reports. I think the volatility gets wild, it's risky, it's easy, the liquidity's low, and it's easy for market makers to hit stops. So I like my entries to be outside of those time periods. It's just a little bit safer and allows you to kind of settle into a trade. So check the economic calendar every day. The next thing you can do, and you might do this pre-market, or you might do it after the market opens, is survey the markets. What kind of day is it going to be, or what kind of day is it? Pre-market, you would see the futures, and they would kind of indicate, are we going to have an up day, a down day, that kind of thing. I do this from 9:30 to 9:45. I generally don't trade the first 15 minutes of the U.S. Stock market day. So I look at the major indices, and I just kind of size it up. What kind of day are we having so far? Is it up? Is it down? These are kind of the closing changes for the indices on Friday, and we had a big up day. It was kind of a gap up, go up, and almost everything was up except for utilities. So this kind of puts you in the right mindset and lets you evaluate your trade idea before you even put it on. If I had a trade idea that was a short sell and I was going to sell something, maybe this isn't the day to do it. This big up day, the way it started off, it may have been better to buy pullbacks and then sell them higher. So take a few minutes, survey the markets, and make sure that your trading ideas kind of coincide with what's happening in the market. So the next thing you can do before you even put on a trade is, whatever your pick is, look at it in different time frames. So again, this doesn't apply to just stocks. It can apply to currencies, futures, options. I'm just going to pick Apple, the stock, as my example. This is a 3-month chart in Apple. And if we switch to the 1-minute chart and we go back to the beginning, this is Friday, the beginning of the day for Apple. This is a 1-minute chart. So if you were going to scalp and the day had just started and it was somewhere around 10 o'clock, Apple would look like that. The reason you should look at things in different time frames, especially if you're unfamiliar with the instrument. Let's say I never traded Apple before. It just looked like something to buy, and it was a big gap up, go up, and I thought it was a great play. If you look at different time frames, it gives you a little idea of where the instrument's been, and it might give you a better idea of what kind of aligns with your holding time frame. So I just switched to a 3-month chart in Apple, and this paints a little bit different picture. This has been in a downtrend since October of last year. It's just down, 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 down. So if I were kind of a medium-term or a long-term trader, would this be a great buy? I don't know. I probably wouldn't buy it. I would probably look for shorting opportunities. But that's what I mean when I say before you jump in, you get excited, you get a trade tip. Look at your instrument in different time frames. So the next thing you can do, just to be safe and lower your risk, is check the news for your item. So we'll pick on Apple again. Strangely enough, would I have bought Apple on Friday knowing that on January 29th, which is next Tuesday, they have an earnings report that's going to come out? Probably not. I don't like to gamble ahead of earnings reports. They're really risky. It's not my style. Maybe it's yours. But in either way, you should be aware of what's going on. And earnings is a big deal. There's a lot of volatility after the close. That can hit your stops too, even if you're right when the market opens the next day. So go to something like marketwatch.com and just take 5 minutes and look at the news and check for when the next earnings announcement is for your instrument before you put on the trade. So the next thing you can do to be successful, and this may be a very basic item to advanced traders, is decide how much you're willing to lose on this trade. This is before you go in. So decide a stop loss. What's the maximum amount you want to lose, and then you have to stick to it. When it gets to that point, you have to get out. An easy way to do that is obviously set a stop loss order that when the price goes a certain amount and it hits what your max is, you're executed and you get out of the trade. So this is what disciplined traders do. This is what professional traders do. They don't get married to any one position. They take their losses and they move on. You're not going to be right most of the time. You're not going to be right a lot of the time. You're going to have series of many losing trades in a row over your career. So before you get into a trade, decide on your stop loss. And it should make sense for the size of your account. If you have a small account, you're not going to bet half of your account on one trade or even a quarter of your account on one trade. For me, 2% on one trade is probably a large amount. I trade very short-term time frames. I do a lot of scalping. I have kind of a high win percentage and a lower loss percentage, but my wins are smaller than my losses. But moral of the story, I don't like to lose more than 2% would be a pretty big loss for a trade for me. So decide on that. What makes sense for you? What makes sense for your account? And stick to it and live to fight another day. Finally, this is a topic that isn't talked about that much, but I think this is really important too. So you've got a maximum stop loss on your account and what you're willing to lose on a trade. How about your time investment on a trade? So I think you need to decide on a time stop also. And this doesn't matter, it can count for any time frame. I have a certain amount of time, and for me it's about 20 minutes. Again, I'm a very short-term trader. I set a time stop. If something isn't going my way in 20 minutes, but it hasn't hit my maximum stop loss, I will still get out and take the loss. This is what works for me. Your time frame might be a little bit different, but it makes sense when you think about your account as a tool. The money is a tool to make more money, and you don't want your money tied up in something that isn't giving you a return. So there's no reason, if you are a medium or a long-term trader, to sit in something for weeks that isn't going in your direction, because while you're tied up in that investment or that pick, there's other things out there that maybe you could catch and make money on. So decide on a time stop and stick to that, and that'll make you a lot more profitable in the long run. So that's all I have for today. If you can incorporate those habits into your routine, I guarantee it will help make you a more profitable trader. If you learned something in this video, please hit like below. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, and you'll find out when my next videos come out. If you have any questions or comments or suggestions on videos you might like to see in the future, throw them in the comments below. I really appreciate it. So good luck out there and happy trading.